The silent sentinel. Nova Haven wasn't supposed to matter. That's what the Galactic Assembly had decided when they granted humans territorial rights to the small rocky planet orbiting a dim red star at the edge of the Orion Arm. Just another unremarkable colony on an unremarkable world, populated by farmers, miners, and those seeking escape from Earth's overcrowded cities. To Captain Alyssa Chen, however, Nova Haven was everything. The colony's head of security walked along the edge of the settlement's eastern perimeter, her breath forming clouds in the crisp morning air. 20 years of military service had left her with a prosthetic leg, a collection of scars, and enough combat experience to recognize when something wasn't right. And something definitely wasn't right today. "Anything on the sensors, Marsh?" she asked into her comm unit. Her second-in-command's voice crackled back. "Nothing unusual, Captain. Just the usual atmospheric disturbances." Alyssa frowned. For 3 days, she'd felt a presence, like eyes watching from the darkness. She'd doubled patrols, run extra sensor suites, even taken the colony's ancient defense drone for a high-altitude scan. Nothing. "Run another deep space probe. Focus on the dark side of Taurus Minor," she ordered, referring to the small moon that orbited their planet. "Captain, that's the 4th sweep today. The Colonial Council is already questioning the power drain on." "Just do it, Marsh." Alyssa continued her patrol as a group of children raced past, laughing as they headed toward the community gardens. Nova Haven had grown significantly in the 15 years since its founding. 8,000 colonists now called this place home, with most having never set foot on Earth. They'd built schools, hospitals, farms, a life worth protecting. Her comm unit buzzed again. "Captain, you need to see this." 10 minutes later, Alyssa stood in the colony's operations center, staring at a blurry image on the main screen. Partially hidden in the shadow of Taurus Minor was a ship, sleek, dark, and definitely not human in design. "How long has it been there?" she demanded. "Based on trajectory analysis, at least 4 days," Marsh replied. "It's using the moon's magnetic field to mask its signature. That's why our standard scans missed it. And it's just watching us. Appears so." Alyssa's jaw tightened. In her 20 years with Earth Fleet, she'd encountered 17 alien species. Most were peaceful, some were indifferent, but a few, a dangerous few, viewed humanity as nothing more than resourceful pests inhabiting valuable real estate. "Alert the Council, quietly, and get me everything we have on non-human vessel signatures matching this configuration." 3 hours later, Alyssa faced the 7 members of Nova Haven's Colonial Council in their underground meeting chamber. The mood was tense as she finished her briefing. "So we have an unknown alien vessel observing our colony," Councillor Darien summarized, his weathered face grave. "And you believe this represents a threat?" "I believe in being prepared for all possibilities," Alyssa replied carefully. "Our database identified the ship design as similar to those used by the Voidborn Collective." The room fell silent. Everyone knew of the Voidborn, a species that had emerged from the far side of the galaxy a decade ago. They weren't openly hostile to humans, but their expansion had been aggressive. 3 smaller species had already been absorbed into their collective, their colonies stripped of resources, and their populations relocated to Voidborn labor planets. "We should contact Earth immediately," suggested Councillor Imani, the youngest member. Councillor Wei shook his head. "The nearest Earth Fleet outpost is 6 weeks away at best. We're on our own." "Not necessarily," Alyssa said carefully. All eyes turned to her. "There's something you should know about Nova Haven's founding." Before she could continue, the colony's emergency alert system blared to life. The operations officer's voice filled the chamber. "Captain Chen to command. We have multiple vessels dropping out of FTL in high orbit." The council chamber erupted in chaos as Alyssa sprinted for the door, her prosthetic leg whirring with the sudden exertion. By the time she reached the operations center, the main view screen showed 7 massive ships positioning themselves in a blockade formation above Nova Haven. "They're hailing us," Marsh announced, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. "Put it through," Alyssa ordered. The screen flickered, revealing a tall, gaunt figure with slate-gray skin stretched tightly over an elongated skull. 4 pupilless eyes, too large, too small, regarded them coldly. "This is Overseer Kalvesh of the Voidborn Collective," the alien announced, its words translated by the computer. "Your settlement occupies a world designated for collective expansion. You have 12 planetary rotations to evacuate. All resources and permanent structures will be claimed for the glory of the collective. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient." "This is a recognized human colony," Alyssa responded, keeping her voice level. "We have territorial rights recognized by the Galactic Assembly." The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "The Assembly's authority is not recognized in this sector. 12 rotations, then we cleans." The transmission cut off. "Sensors are detecting weapons systems powering up on all vessels," reported the sensor officer, her voice trembling. Alyssa turned to Marsh. "Evacuation protocols. Now, get everyone to the emergency shelters." Then she faced Counselor Wei, who had followed her from the chamber. "Sir, I need your authorization for Protocol Omega." Wei's face paled. "So it's true then. The rumors about why this colony was established." "It was never just a colony," Alyssa replied quietly. "Authorization, sir. We don't have much time." After a moment's hesitation, Wei pressed his palm against the biometric scanner on Alyssa's tablet. "Protocol Omega authorized. God help us all." 20 minutes later, Alyssa stood alone in a bunker 200 meters beneath Nova Haven's main plaza. Unlike the utilitarian design of the colony's other structures, this chamber was lined with polished metal and filled with technology far beyond what a frontier colony should possess. She placed her hand on a scanner in the center of the room. "Captain Alyssa Chen, Earth Fleet Special Division. Authorization Sierra 9. Echo November Tango India November Echo Lima." The room hummed to life. A holographic interface materialized before her, displaying a single pulsing icon. "The Voidborn have found us sooner than expected," she said to the empty room. "Activate the Sentinel Protocol." The icon expanded, revealing a complex network of nodes stretching across vast distances of space. At its center pulsed a single message: "Sentinel awakened." From deep beneath Nova Haven's surface, a signal burst outward, bypassing conventional communication channels. It wasn't aimed at Earth or any known human outpost. Instead, it raced toward a region of supposedly empty space, far beyond the edge of charted territory. Above, the Voidborn ships launched their first wave of shuttles, not an attack, but a scouting force to assess the colony's defenses and resources. They expected minimal resistance, perhaps some primitive weapons, a few security personnel like Alyssa. What they found instead were colonists who moved with unexpected discipline, former miners who handled repurposed industrial equipment with military precision, farmers who took up defensive positions with the efficiency of trained soldiers. The first Voidborn scout to land near the colony's edge was met with coordinated fire from hidden positions. The second shuttle found its systems mysteriously malfunctioning as it entered the atmosphere, crashing into the northern mountains. From his command ship, Overseer Kalvesh observed with growing irritation. "This resistance is unexpected," he noted to his second. "Scan deeper. There may be more to this human settlement than our initial assessment." "Overseer," his sensor officer called out, voice rising with concern. "We're detecting an unusual transmission emanating from the colony. Its pattern doesn't match any known human communication protocol." Kalvesh's secondary eyes narrowed. "Trace it." "Impossible, Overseer. It's using some form of quantum entanglement we've never encountered." For the first time in his long military career, Overseer Kalvesh felt a flicker of unease. He had conquered 12 worlds and subjugated 3 species, but something about this insignificant human colony suddenly felt wrong. "Begin the primary assault," he ordered. I want this colony raised before their signal brings whatever help they're calling. On the surface, Elissa emerged from the bunker to find Nova Haven transformed into a battlefield. The colonists had implemented defensive measures that had been drilled into them for years under the guise of emergency preparedness. Now those drills were paying off as they held the first wave of Voidborn at bay. How long? Marsh asked as she rejoined him at the makeshift command post. Elissa checked her tactical display. The signal's been sent. Now we just need to hold out. And if no one answers. She met his eyes squarely. Then we make these bastards pay for every inch of our home. Above them, the Voidborn fleet moved into attack formation as the first genuine assault began. Energy weapons carved glowing lines through Nova Haven's atmosphere. The colony's shield, revealed now to be far more advanced than a frontier settlement should possess, flared to life, absorbing the initial barrage. But it wouldn't hold forever. Already the eastern section was weakening under sustained fire. Elissa directed her forces to fall back to secondary positions, preserving as many lives as possible, while maintaining the illusion of a standard colonial defense. Because that's what Nova Haven was meant to be. An illusion. A seemingly unremarkable human settlement hiding something far more significant. As night fell on the first day of battle, Elissa stood on a ridge overlooking the burning edges of her colony. Behind her, thousands of colonists huddled in reinforced shelters beneath the surface. Before her, the Voidborn prepared for what they believed would be the final assault at dawn. What they didn't know, what no one outside Earth's highest military command knew, was that Nova Haven was never meant to stand alone. It was a tripwire, a silent sentinel placed at the edge of human space. And that silence had just been broken. Far beyond the reach of any known sensors, something ancient and purposeful stirred in the void. The signal from Nova Haven had reached its destination. Humanity's true defense was awakening. Awakening the stars. In the darkness between stars, where no survey ships ventured and no trade routes passed, a vast structure hung suspended in the void. To casual observation, it appeared to be nothing more than an asteroid cluster, unremarkable, uncharted, and unimportant. But appearances could be deceiving. Deep within the largest asteroid, a chamber bathed in blue light housed a solitary figure. Fleet Admiral Kaiden Reeves stood motionless before a holographic display as it flared to life, with a message he had waited 15 years to receive. Sentinel awakened. Location? He asked, his voice rough from disuse. Nova Haven Colony, replied the ship's eye. Voidborn incursion. 7 capital ships. Invasion in progress. Reeves nodded slowly. He was a tall man with prematurely white hair and eyes that had seen too much warfare. The last official record of his existence showed him dying heroically during the Arcturus conflict. The truth was far more complex. Wake the fleet, he ordered. All ships. Full combat protocols. Around him, the asteroid cluster began to transform. Massive sections of rock slid away, revealing the gleaming hulls of warships nestled within. Running lights activated in sequence as dormant systems surged to life. This wasn't just a hidden base. It was humanity's shadow armada, a force created in secret after Earth's first devastating contact with hostile aliens decades earlier. 117 ships, from nimble frigates to massive dreadnoughts, each bearing no official insignia, each crewed by soldiers who had officially died in service or voluntarily disappeared from records. They were the contingency plan that officially didn't exist. Operation Phoenix, humanity's final insurance policy. Time to Nova Haven, Reeves asked as he strode onto the bridge of the fleet's flagship, appropriately named Lazarus. 28 hours at maximum FTL, his executive officer, Commander Sato, replied. Once the youngest captain in Earth fleet history, Sato had perished alongside Reeves at Arcturus. Not fast enough, Reeves muttered. Prepare the jump gates. Sato's eyes widened slightly. Sir, the gates haven't been field tested for. If Nova Haven falls, we lose more than a colony, Reeves cut in. We lose our early warning system and our forward position. The next void-borne target will be deeper in human space, possibly with no warning at all. He fixed his XO with a steely gaze. Prepare the jump gates. Throughout the fleet, crews scrambled to battle stations as massive ring-shaped devices, experimental FTL accelerators, moved into position. The technology was dangerous, unstable, and exactly what they needed. Back on Nova Haven, Dawn brought a renewed void-borne assault. Their ships had moved into lower orbit, energy weapons carving craters into the landscape surrounding the colony. The defensive shield was failing section by section, forced to contract as power reserves dwindled. In the command bunker, Alyssa Chen coordinated what remained of their defenses. Casualties were mounting. Their more advanced weapons, hidden among standard colonial equipment, had surprised the initial void-borne forces, but the aliens had adapted quickly. Eastern Shield Sector is critical, reported a technician, voice hoarse from hours of non-stop crisis management. 5 minutes at most. Alyssa studied the tactical display grimly. Redirect power from the northern sector. There's nothing left to protect there anyway. Captain, Marsh called from the communication station. I'm picking up unusual energy readings just beyond the edge of the system. Void-borne reinforcements. No. The signature is different. It's... The bunker's sensors suddenly screamed with alerts as space itself seemed to tear open at the system's edge. Massive rings of energy formed in sequence, creating a tunnel of distorted space-time. Through this impossible corridor emerged ships, dozens of them, then scores, appearing where no ships should have been able to travel. Human ships, but unlike any Alyssa had seen before. "What am I looking at, Marsh?" she whispered. Her second-in-command stared at the readings in disbelief. They're Earth fleet designs, but evolved, more advanced, and there are identification codes coming through on a channel I've never seen before. He looked up, eyes wide. "Captain, they're responding to Protocol Omega. They're here for us." Above Nova Haven, the void-borne fleet reacted with predictable aggression to the unexpected arrival. Their ships broke from bombardment patterns, reorienting toward the newcomers and charging weapons. Overseer Kalvesh, however, remained unnervingly calm as he studied the human fleet materializing before him. "Interesting," he murmured. The settlement was bait. His second-in-command chittered nervously. "Overseer, we are outmatched 3-1. Recommend immediate withdrawal." "No," Kalvesh replied, 4 eyes narrowing. "The collective must know what we face. Engage the human vessels. Full aggression protocols." The void-borne ships accelerated toward the human fleet, energy weapons charging. What followed wasn't a battle so much as a revelation. The human vessels moved with impossible coordination, as though each captain could predict the other's actions without communication. Where void-borne energy beams struck, advanced shielding absorbed and redirected the force. Return fire came not as expected energy weapons, but as focused gravitational distortions that crushed void-borne hull plating like paper. On Lazarus's bridge, Admiral Reeves watched the engagement with cold efficiency. "Target their flagship," he ordered. Tactical pattern Scythe. 3 human frigates broke formation, accelerating to speeds that should have torn their hulls apart. They spiraled around the void-borne command ship, releasing canisters that adhered to its surface. Not explosives, something far worse. "Nanite swarms deployed," reported the tactical officer. Penetration in progress. On his ship, Kalvesh watched in mounting horror as his systems failed one by one. View screens showed microscopic machines eating through hull material, targeting specific systems with terrifying precision. "What is this?" he demanded as emergency lighting flickered. No human technology should be this advanced. In truth, it wasn't supposed to be. What the Voidborn were facing was the result of 15 years of unrestricted development, free from bureaucratic oversight, political constraints, or ethical committees. Phoenix Fleet represented humanity's darkest contingency, what they were capable of when survival was the only consideration. Within 20 minutes, 3 void-borne vessels had been destroyed outright. 2 more were disabled, drifting helplessly. Only Kalvesh's flagship and 1 escort remained partially functional, retreating to the system's edge. Overseer, his second pleaded, "We must jump to FTL while we still can." Kalvesh stared at the viewscreen, watching the human fleet form a perfect blockade between his remaining ships and the colony. "The collective must know," he repeated, voice hollow with realization. "These aren't colony defenders or even their known military. This is something else." On his command channel, a human voice suddenly spoke, translated perfectly into voidborn language. "Overseer Kalvesh, this is Admiral Kaiden Reeves of the Phoenix Legion. Your attack on Nova Haven has been cataloged, along with your threats. The coordinates of 16 voidborn primary worlds are now targeted in our systems." Kalvesh froze. How could they know the locations of the collective's core worlds? Their homeworld was a closely guarded secret. "This colony and all human settlements are under our protection," Reeves continued. "Return to your collective. Tell them what you witnessed here today. Tell them that humanity's patience has limits." The transmission ended. Kalvesh gave the order to retreat, his 4 eyes fixed on the human vessels as his damaged ships limped into FTL. For the first time in the collective's expansion, they had not merely been defeated, they had been outclassed. On Nova Haven's surface, colonists emerged cautiously from shelters to see unfamiliar ships descending through the atmosphere. Not the sleek predatory forms of the Voidborn, but human vessels bearing an insignia few had ever seen. A phoenix rising from flames against a field of stars. Alyssa Chen stood at the colony's central plaza as a shuttle landed. The ramp lowered, and Admiral Reeves strode out, looking exactly as he had in the classified briefings she'd received before accepting her assignment to Nova Haven. "Captain Chen," he greeted her with a crisp salute. "Your colony performed exactly as designed." "With respect, Admiral," she replied, gesturing to the damaged buildings and medical teams tending to the wounded. "My people weren't designed to be targets." "No," Reeves acknowledged, his expression softening slightly. "But they've helped prevent something far worse." He looked around at the gathering colonists. Every person here was selected not just for their stated skills, but for their ability to organize, adapt, and fight if necessary. Nova Haven isn't just a colony. It's humanity's first line of defense. Together, they walked toward the command bunker as Phoenix Legion troops deployed throughout the settlement, bringing advanced medical aid and reconstruction technology. "Will they come back?" Alyssa asked. "The Voidborn?" "Eventually," Reeves admitted, "but not until they've reassessed everything they thought they knew about humanity." He paused, looking up at the ships still visible in the sky. "The galaxy believes humans are scattered, divided, limited by our technology and our ethics. Today, the Voidborn learned that's not entirely true." In the days that followed, Nova Haven began to rebuild. The Phoenix Legion established a permanent presence, transforming the once hidden underground facilities into an acknowledged military installation. The colony's true purpose was finally revealed to its inhabitants, many of whom chose to stay despite the risks. 1 month after the attack, Alyssa stood with Admiral Reeves on the observation platform overlooking the valley. Construction drones swarmed over new buildings designed to withstand orbital bombardment. Defense systems, no longer disguised, integrated seamlessly with the colony's infrastructure. "Nova Haven isn't alone," Reeves explained as they watched the activity below. "There are others. 12 settlements strategically placed along our borders, each appearing unremarkable, each serving as a silent sentinel, and each with its own Phoenix response team." Alyssa asked. Reeves nodded. "Different specialized units based on the likely threats in each sector. Yours was the first to be activated." "Lucky us," she remarked dryly. "Perhaps," Reeves said, turning to face her. "But consider the alternative. The Voidborn would have continued their expansion unchecked, picking off isolated colonies one by one, believing humanity too weak to respond effectively." His eyes hardened. "Now they know better." As night fell over Nova Haven, lights from the rebuilt sections created a defiant glow visible from orbit. No longer pretending to be just another struggling colony, it now stood openly as what it had always been meant to be, a fortress at the edge of human space, a warning to those who might threaten humanity's future. And far beyond the system's edge, Overseer Kolvesh delivered his report to the Collective's ruling council, a report that would reshape their understanding of the seemingly fragmented human species, a report of ships that appeared from nowhere, weapons beyond current scientific understanding, and the unsettling realization that humanity's apparent technological limitations might be the greatest deception of all. The Voidborn Collective had underestimated Nova Haven as just another insignificant colony. They would not make that mistake again. Neither would any other species that might consider humanity easy prey. For behind the appearance of scattered settlements and modest defenses lurked a shadow fleet, patient, vigilant, and ready to emerge from the darkness when called. Nova Haven's signal had awakened the stars themselves, and the galaxy would never be the same.